Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name's Kathy. We are continuing with our discussion of the Affidavit of Probable Cause 3 years later, and we are at page number 10, where it states as follows. Officer Whitman also ran the car and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. I reviewed Kohberg's Kohberg''S Washington State Driver's License Information and Photograph. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 feet and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th. Further investigation, including a review of Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke's body cam and reports, showed that on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho, by Corporal Duke. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plate, and then it gives the plate number here, which was set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via a law enforcement body camera, Kohberger provided his phone number as, and then the first several digits are redacted, ending with 8458. Hereafter, the quote 8458 phone, end of quote, as his cellular telephone number. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone is a number issued by AT&T. Next paragraph. On October 14, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam and report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plate, and again, the plate number is given here. On November 18, 2022, according to Washington State Licensing, Kohberger registered the 2015 white Elantra with Washington and later received Washington plate, and the plate number is given. Prior to this time, the 2015 white Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. And then in parentheses, this was learned through communication with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. End of parentheses. And we're going to stop here as the next few words of page 10 continue on to page 11. We'll address that in our next episode of this continuing series. If I could make a few comments here, speculation, give opinions, completely pursuant to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, exclusively. First, we see here that Detective Payne begins with two different spelling of Mr. Kohberger's name. Kohberger, and then line 2, he refers to him as Kohberg. Secondly, Detective Payne, not the witness, but Detective Payne, is coming to the conclusion that Mr. Kohberger's physical description of a height of 6 feet, weight of 185 pounds, and of a photograph on the license that Detective Payne has determined shows Mr. Kohberger has bushy eyebrows, appears to be making a physical identification of Mr. Kohberger, not the witness, but Detective Payne interjecting himself as though he were a witness in this identification. And I asked the rhetorical question of why was Detective Payne making this identification and not perhaps calling DM, the witness, in to do what law enforcement might do, which is present her with 5 or 6 different photographs, including that of Mr. Kohberger, and ask the witness if she could identify who she saw, not who Detective Payne is assuming she saw, but who DM saw inside 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022. Additionally, DM was interviewed on November 13th, 2022 by 2 of Detective Payne's colleagues. This would have been as close to the time of the timeline of the crimes as the Moscow Police Department in this PCA states happened, between 4 o'clock and 4:25 in the morning. The first time that DM was interviewed on camera occurred outside of the 1122 residence, right there in the street in front of the house. And it's captured on body cam by the first responding MPD officer, Officer Mitch Nunez. And DM does not state that the person she saw had bushy eyebrows. I believe from my review of that body cam footage that she said she didn't even see the intruder's eyes. Then, a little bit later on that same day, DM was interviewed at the Moscow Police Department by Officer Mowry. And she does not say there that the intruder had bushy eyebrows. Regarding the 2 stops that happened, the one in Latah County by Corporal Duke in Moscow, and then by WSU, Washington State Police Officer, later in October, are available now for you to review online. I do invite you to take a look at both of those stops of Mr. Kohberger and come to your conclusions as to such things as this description of the car that he's in, the issue regarding the cell phone, which is for the first time mentioned here, that's known as the 8458 phone, is going to play, as we learn as we go through the rest of this PCA, a very important role in Detective Payne's successful convincing of Magistrate Megan E. Marshall to issue a warrant for Mr. Kohberger's arrest based on what is contained in this PCA. This will now conclude this episode of the Indie Zone podcast. Please join us for our next episode. Until then, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.